Welcome to BookBuzz Reviews and Summaries. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers, your heart pounding, your palms sweating, and your mind spinning with questions like, what will they think of me? Am I coming off as awkward? What if I embarrass myself? Now, picture the same situation, but instead of feeling paralyzed by fear, you walk in with a calm sense of confidence, ready to connect, share, and simply be yourself. Welcome to a life-changing journey through how to be yourself. Quiet Your Inner Critic and Rise Above Social Anxiety by Hendriksen. This isn't just another self-help book promising quick fixes. It's a compassionate, research-backed guide written by someone who understands the depths of social anxiety and how to rise above it. In this transformative book, Hendriksen teaches us that social anxiety isn't a life sentence or a flaw in who we are. It's a learned response, and one we can unlearn. Drawing on her years of experience as a clinical psychologist, she uncovers the science behind why we feel stuck in our own heads and offers actionable strategies to break free from the grip of self-doubt. But this isn't about fixing yourself because you're not broken. It's about uncovering the authentic, amazing person you already are beneath the noise of self-criticism. So, whether you've struggled with social anxiety for years or simply want to quiet that nagging inner critic, Hendriksen's words will speak directly to your soul. Are you ready to leave self-consciousness behind and embrace the life you deserve? Let's dive into how to be yourself and unlock the courage to show the world and yourself who you truly are. Part 1. Understanding Social Anxiety, Unmasking the Inner Critic. Hendriksen opens her book by diving headfirst into the nature of social anxiety, a condition that can make even everyday interactions feel daunting. She begins by reassuring readers that social anxiety is not a personal failing or a sign of weakness. Instead, she frames it as a challenge deeply rooted in biology, psychology, and life experiences. Her approachable tone and relatable examples immediately draw readers in, making them feel seen and understood. Chapter 1. Social Anxiety Unveiled: The Mask We Wear. In this chapter, Hendriksen paints a vivid picture of what it feels like to live with social anxiety. She introduces the concept of the mask many people with social anxiety wear, a facade of composure, perfection, or aloofness designed to hide their inner turmoil. This mask is a protective mechanism, but Hendriksen reveals that it often becomes a barrier to authentic connections. She delves into the origins of social anxiety, explaining how it's rooted in our evolutionary past. Social acceptance once meant survival in small, tight-knit groups, and rejection could spell disaster. While our modern world has evolved, our brains are still wired to perceive social scrutiny as a threat. Hendriksen likens social anxiety to an overactive smoke alarm, constantly warning us of danger, even when there's no fire. The author then introduces a key insight: social anxiety thrives on avoidance. The more we avoid situations that make us uncomfortable, the more we reinforce the belief that these situations are dangerous. This sets the stage for the rest of the book, where Hendriksen promises to help readers break free from this cycle. Chapter 2. The Inner Critic, Your Worst Frenemy. In this chapter, Hendriksen shines a spotlight on the inner critic, the relentless voice in our heads that feeds social anxiety. The inner critic is like an overbearing coach, constantly pointing out our flaws and predicting disaster in social situations. It convinces us that we'll embarrass ourselves, be judged harshly, or even be rejected outright. But Hendriksen doesn't stop at identifying the problem. She takes it a step further by helping readers understand why the inner critic exists. She explains that the inner critic often arises from a desire to protect us from humiliation or rejection. However, this protection often backfires, leaving us paralyzed with self-doubt. To help readers begin to quiet their inner critic, Hendriksen introduces the concept of self-compassion. She encourages readers to treat themselves with the same kindness and understanding they would offer a close friend. This idea feels revolutionary to many, as it challenges the belief that harsh self-criticism is the only way to improve. Chapter 3: The Spiral of Social Anxiety: How It Takes Hold. Hendriksen masterfully illustrates how social anxiety can spiral out of control. She describes a common scenario. You walk into a room full of people and immediately feel a surge of self-consciousness. Your inner critic kicks in, whispering, "Everyone is judging you. Don't say anything stupid." As a result, you become hyper-focused on your perceived flaws, which makes you feel even more anxious. This heightened anxiety can cause you to stumble over your words or withdraw entirely, reinforcing the belief that you're socially inept. This chapter is particularly engaging because Hendriksen uses vivid anecdotes and relatable examples to bring these concepts to life. She shares stories of clients who have struggled with social anxiety, making their challenges feel universal and their victories inspiring. Hendriksen also emphasizes that social anxiety isn't a fixed trait, it's a pattern of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that can be changed. She encourages readers to adopt a growth mindset, viewing social anxiety as a challenge to overcome rather than a permanent part of their identity. Key takeaways from Part 1. By the end of Part 1, readers have a deeper understanding of social anxiety and its underlying mechanisms. Hendriksen's empathetic and hopeful tone makes it clear that overcoming social anxiety is possible. She provides a roadmap for the journey ahead, promising practical strategies to help readers quiet their inner critic, step out of their comfort zones, and build authentic connections. The combination of relatable stories, scientific insights, and actionable advice keeps readers hooked, eager to dive into the next section and start transforming their lives. Part 2: Breaking Free: Practical Strategies to Overcome Social Anxiety. In Part 2 of How to Be Yourself, Ellen Hendriksen takes readers on a journey from understanding their social anxiety to actively breaking free from its grip. With her blend of evidence-based techniques, heartfelt empathy, and engaging anecdotes, she empowers readers to challenge their inner critic, step out of their comfort zones, and reframe the way they approach social interactions. Chapter 4: Rewriting the Narrative: Challenging Your Inner Critic. Hendriksen opens this chapter with a truth bomb. Most of what the inner critic says is either exaggerated or flat-out false. However, because the inner critic's voice is so persistent and convincing, it often feels like reality. Here, she introduces the idea of cognitive restructuring, reframing the negative and distorted thoughts that fuel social anxiety. She outlines simple yet effective questions to interrogate the inner critic. Is this thought based on facts or assumptions? If a friend were in my shoes, what would I tell them? What's the worst that could realistically happen, and how likely is that? Using relatable examples, Hendriksen demonstrates how to turn thoughts like, "I'm going to humiliate myself," into, "Even if I stumble, most people won't notice, and if they do, they're likely to forget quickly." She stresses that challenging the inner critic isn't about ignoring fears, but about finding a balanced perspective. Chapter 5: Exposure Therapy: The Antidote to Avoidance. In this pivotal chapter, Hendriksen dives into the power of exposure therapy, which she describes as the gold standard for overcoming social anxiety. While avoidance may provide temporary relief, it ultimately reinforces the idea that social situations are dangerous. Exposure therapy, on the other hand, helps rewire the brain by proving that these situations are not as threatening as they seem. Hendriksen guides readers through creating a fear ladder, a step-by-step plan to gradually face their fears. For example, someone who fears public speaking might start by practicing in front of a mirror, then move on to speaking in front of a trusted friend, and eventually work up to presenting to a larger group. To make the process less intimidating, Hendriksen emphasizes the importance of starting small and celebrating every success, no matter how minor it may seem. She reminds readers that progress is not linear and that setbacks are a natural part of growth. Chapter 6: The Power of Presence: Shifting Focus Away from Yourself. Social anxiety often traps people in their own heads, causing them to overanalyze their every word and action. In this chapter, Hendriksen introduces mindfulness and grounding techniques to help readers break free from this self-focus. She encourages readers to shift their attention outward, focusing on the people they're interacting with rather than their own perceived flaws. This can be as simple as genuinely listening to what someone is saying or noticing details in the environment. Hendriksen also tackles the fear of awkward silences, offering practical tips like asking open-ended questions or commenting on shared experiences. By focusing on connection rather than performance, readers can reduce the pressure they put on themselves in social situations. Chapter 7: Becoming Your Authentic Self, Building Confidence in Action. This chapter is the emotional heart of Part 2. Hendriksen challenges the idea that overcoming social anxiety requires becoming someone else. Instead, she argues that the goal is to uncover and embrace your authentic self. She shares inspiring stories of clients who have done just that, like the introverted artist who learned to share her work with confidence or the young professional who stopped trying to fit in at work and started standing out. These stories serve as powerful reminders that authenticity is not only liberating but also magnetic. Hendriksen offers practical exercises to help readers discover their authentic selves, such as identifying their core values and finding small ways to express them in daily life. She also emphasizes the importance of self-care and boundaries, reminding readers that saying no can be just as empowering as saying yes. Chapter 8: Facing Your Biggest Fears, the Social Olympics. The final chapter of Part 2 is all about taking on the big-ticket challenges, those high-stakes social situations that feel insurmountable. Whether it's giving a presentation, attending a party, or having a difficult conversation, Hendriksen provides a step-by-step guide to navigating these moments with courage and grace. She encourages readers to prepare without over-preparing, to focus on the process rather than the outcome, and to give themselves permission to be imperfect. Bravery, she writes, is not the absence of fear, it's taking action despite it. Hendriksen also introduces the concept of post-event processing, a common trap for people with social anxiety. Instead of ruminating on what went wrong, she advises readers to reflect on what went well and what they can learn for next time. Key takeaways from Part 2. In Part 2, Hendriksen equips readers with practical tools to challenge their inner critic, face their fears, and connect authentically with others. Her step-by-step approach makes daunting tasks feel manageable, and her compassionate tone reminds readers that they're not alone in their struggles. By the end of this section, readers are not only more equipped to handle social anxiety, but also more motivated to step outside their comfort zones and embrace life with courage and authenticity. Part 3: Thriving Beyond Social Anxiety, Living Authentically and Building Lasting Confidence. In the final section of How to Be Yourself, Ellen Hendriksen helps readers solidify the progress they've made and offers guidance on how to maintain growth for the long term. This part isn't just about managing social anxiety, but about thriving, embracing life, building meaningful connections, and stepping into one's true potential. Chapter 9: Building Real Connections, From Surface to Depth. Hendriksen begins Part 3 by addressing one of the ultimate goals of overcoming social anxiety: forming genuine relationships. While social anxiety often tricks people into thinking they need to perform in social situations, she encourages readers to focus on creating authentic connections instead. She explains that authenticity and vulnerability are key ingredients for building trust and intimacy. While this can feel risky, Hendriksen reassures readers that being genuine is far more rewarding than trying to project an image of perfection. Practical strategies include starting small, sharing a little more about yourself in conversations to deepen connections gradually. Practicing active listening, paying attention to what others say, asking follow-up questions, and showing genuine interest. Accepting imperfections, recognizing that no relationship is flawless and that small missteps are natural. Hendriksen also highlights the importance of reciprocity, balancing openness with respect for boundaries, both yours and others. Chapter 10, Self-Acceptance in Action, Embracing Who You Are. This chapter revolves around cultivating self-acceptance, which Hendriksen describes as the antidote to the perfectionism and self-criticism that fuels social anxiety. She stresses that self-acceptance doesn't mean settling for mediocrity or ignoring personal growth, but rather making peace with who you are in the present moment. Hendriksen introduces exercises for practicing self-acceptance, such as rewriting your story. Instead of focusing on past embarrassments or perceived failures, reflect on moments of resilience and strength. Journaling gratitude for your unique traits, listing qualities, skills, or quirks you appreciate about yourself. Challenging comparisons, learning to stop measuring yourself against others and focusing on your own journey instead. She also touches on the importance of redefining what success looks like in social situations. Success, she argues, is not about impressing others but about staying true to yourself and building genuine connections. Chapter 11, Resilience and Relapses, Handling Setbacks with Grace. Hendriksen candidly addresses a topic often overlooked in self-help books: setbacks. She reassures readers that occasional struggles with social anxiety, even after making significant progress, are completely normal. Instead of viewing these moments as failures, she encourages readers to see them as opportunities to learn and grow. The chapter outlines a step-by-step process for handling relapses. 1. Acknowledge the setback without judgment. Avoid self-blame or catastrophizing. 2. Reflect on the situation. Identify triggers and assess what could be done differently next time. 3. Revisit your tools. Use the strategies from earlier chapters, like cognitive restructuring or exposure therapy, to regain confidence. 4. Celebrate small victories. Recognize that progress is not about being perfect, but about moving forward, even in small steps. Hendriksen's empathy shines through as she reminds readers that the journey to overcoming social anxiety is not linear. Every step back, she writes, can still move you forward if you learn from it. Chapter 12, Thriving as Your True Self, Living Boldly and Fully. In the final chapter, Hendriksen ties everything together, showing readers how to live a fulfilling and authentic life beyond social anxiety. She emphasizes that the ultimate goal is not to become fearless, but to act despite fear and to embrace life with courage and curiosity. This chapter is filled with inspiring stories of individuals who have risen above their social anxiety and gone on to achieve their dreams. From a client who learned to enjoy public speaking to another who found joy in forming new friendships, these examples serve as powerful reminders that transformation is possible. Hendriksen encourages readers to take risks, whether it's pursuing a new hobby, speaking up in a meeting, or simply smiling at a stranger. Each small act of bravery, she explains, builds the confidence and resilience needed to tackle larger challenges. She closes the book with a heartfelt message: you don't need to wait until you're ready or perfect to live your life. You already have everything you need to be yourself, and that's more than enough. Key takeaways from Part 3. Part 3 provides readers with the tools and mindset needed to sustain their progress and thrive beyond social anxiety. Hendriksen's emphasis on self-acceptance, resilience, and authenticity leaves readers feeling empowered to embrace their true selves and build meaningful, lasting connections. With the journey from understanding social anxiety to thriving authentically complete, the book concludes with a sense of hope and empowerment. Hendriksen's wisdom, combined with her compassionate and relatable tone, ensures that readers feel equipped to step out of the shadows of social anxiety and into the light of their true potential. Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new video updates.